We have Fujishima in our studio, who's in charge of the disaster prevention. So nearly 2 hours have passed since the first earthquake. Earlier we had the JMA press conference, and we had to pay attention to possible aftershocks and shakes of 6+ for about a week. In the JMA press conference, a maximum 6+ in intensity quake could happen or take place for about a week. And we have experienced 12 aftershocks until 12:40, and these aftershocks could continue. So people have to pay attention to potential tremors, and there could be collapse of the block walls, and also the collapse of the buildings and the walls. And earlier we saw the slope collapsing from the Joban Expressway. So there could be potential landslides and mudslides caused by the tremor, and there's also power outages. There could be a potential fire when there's the power supplies being provided, so people should pay attention to these things as well. In the press conference earlier, this was the reverse fault type earthquake. So what is the characteristics of this earthquake? Earlier in the JMA press conference, it says that this earthquake happened within the Pacific Ocean plate, and it's considered to be the aftershock of the Great Eastern Japan earthquake. And after that great earthquake, there has been many aftershocks. And the depth was quite deep, therefore the tremor was observed in wide areas. And the aftershocks and the earthquake activity is still continuing, so people have to pay attention to this. And we're also receiving reports of power outages and tremors continuing in the nighttime. So what are the things to watch out for? So this took place at nighttime, so many people must be very worried. So it's important that you check the surroundings and talk to your family members and people in your neighborhood. And if you hear the sound of a building cracking, it's important that you move and evacuate to safer, robust buildings nearby. But when you're moving, you have to pay attention so that you don't get close to dangerous buildings and slopes. And because it's dark, it's important to pay attention to your passages. And even within homes, there could be falling objects, glasses, which might injure you. So what you could do is to wear shoes or slippers even within your home. And we receive information that shelters are being opened. So when people are evacuating, people have to make sure their flames are turned off, stoves are turned off. And because it's dark, people have to watch out their steps when they travel. And there's also worries about the infection, COVID-19 spreading. So people have to evacuate under the worries of the COVID-19 infections. But I think we need to make sure that evacuation comes first. People should not hesitate from evacuating just because they're worried about the COVID-19 infection. So they should evacuate if they think that is the most important thing to do. So this is footage of Fukushima City as of 1 p.m. You can see the outer walls collapsing because of the tremor, and the billboards could come off because of the potential quakes. So when you're traveling outside, moving to evacuation shelters, for example, pay attention to your surroundings. We now go to... we continue to ask Fujishima, our reporter. So in many of the areas, we are hearing of damages such as things falling from shelves. Now, going into the morning, what are the things we need to be on the alert for? There could be other aftershocks, and of course, many of the things have already fallen, so please make sure you are safe. And right now,
some of the other objects that haven't fallen yet after the aftershocks could fall. Some of the walls, we saw part of them crumble, and that could actually collapse even more. So even if you're staying home or seeking shelter at the nearest shelters, please make sure that you have to check on your safety first. And of course it's winter and there's been quite a lot of snow, so avalanches could occur. There's a danger due to this large tremble and landslides as well. So those of you who are living near slopes and other mountainous areas, maybe it is important to move to a more robust structure if you have any nearby. We go to Hironomachi Town Office in Fukushima Prefecture. Hirono Town, Fukushima Prefecture. The first floor, the water pipes have burst and there's water falling here. So the city office is without water at this moment. They're trying to recover this and fix it, but there's no reports of injury to the office, but there are 6 people who have evacuated, and the staff are here working to gather more information. This was Hirono Town Hall. Last night, off the shores of Fukushima Prefecture, there was a major earthquake in Fukushima and Miyagi Prefecture. A 6+ maximum seismic intensity have been observed. There's been following jobs, and the meteorological agency is calling on people to be vigilant because there could be more aftershocks of this size for the coming week. A magnitude 7.3 earthquake hit this area at 23:08 in Zao Town, Miyagi Prefecture, in Fukushima Prefecture, Soma City, Kunimi Town, and Shinchi Town. The earthquake hit the 6+. And Iwanuma, Tomei, and Kawasaki Town, Watari Town, Yamamoto Town, Fukushima Prefecture's Fukushima City, Koriyama City, Kagawa City, and Minami Soma City, Date City, Motomiya City, Korimachi, and Kawamachi, and Tenye Village in Hironomachi Town is 6- have been registered, and Nagaha Town, Okuma Town, Futaba Town, and Namie Town as well. They registered 6-. As for a seismic 5+ in Miyagi Prefecture, Alba Ward, Miyagi-no Ward, Wakabayashi Ward in Sendai, Shiogama City, Shiraishi City, Natori City, Sumida City, Iwaki City in Fukushima Prefecture, Shirakawa City, Nihonmatsu City, Tamura City. These are the areas that registered 5+. Tochigi Prefecture's Takanezawa Town and Nasu Town also registered 5+. As for 5-, Iwate, Miyagi, Yamagata, Fukushima, Ibaraki, Tochigi, Saitama Prefectures, some areas there had 5 to minus, and the seismic intensity of 4 to 1 was registered in a wide area from Hokkaido, and it was in Fukushima, and the depth was 55 kilometers. A magnitude of 7.3 is the current tentative size of the quake, and there are no danger for tsunami. After the major quake, there has been several aftershocks. Around 23:51, there was a seismic intensity of 3+ or so registered. So the meteorological agency says that for the coming week, there could be other aftershocks that would be as the strongest 6+. Here is some injury reports in Kunimi Town. In the public Fujita General Hospital, by 1 a.m. today, there were reports of 5 injuries who have been transported to the hospital by ambulances. And other than this, there's been 10 reports of injuries, and they came to the hospital by their own car. Some of the injuries are cuts from glasses that have fallen and collapsed, and none of them are serious injuries, and they don't need to stay at the hospital overnight. At this hospital, there are 200 or so inpatients, but no injury has been reported due to this quake. Information from the fire department in the Soma City and Shinji Town, which registers 6+, as of 1 a.m. today, there have been some 6 reports of injuries due to fallen objects. In Date City and Kori Town, which registers 6-, as of 1 a.m., there are 6 reports of injuries caused by the quake. In this fire department's jurisdiction, Kunimi Town, which registers 6+, at this moment there are no reports of injury. We now go to nuclear power plant. TEPCO says at 6- was registered in Okuma Town of Futaba Town, where the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant is located. They say they are seeing no abnormalities or trouble with the external power source. And NHK's helicopter and the camera is showing lights being lit there. And on the screen you're seeing a live footage of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. You can see that the power is on, and from number 1 to number 6, the plant data. And as for the water that is pumping water into the housing, the operations are all underway. They are all operating. The water supply is secure. They have confirmed that they are all operating normally. When the earthquake occurred, a fire alarm went on at the quake-resistant structure, but when they closed the door, the alert was shut down, and TEPCO said that it was a false alarm. And at 11:20 p.m. at the facility that is called the resting area, there was an alert for gas leaks as well as fire, but this was also a false alert. They have confirmed the safety, and the staff are continuing to patrol the premise and the facilities. As for the radiation, the monitoring posts within the premise and also at the boundary of the premise, the dust monitor that measures radiation particles in the air are showing no different abnormal levels. So they say they cannot acknowledge any radiation leakage at this moment. Also, for the facility that is measuring the water radiation level of the ocean, they say they're observing no abnormalities at this moment. According to the tourism agency, the information concerning this earthquake is distributed on the special apps. Safety Tips is the app operated by the tourism agency of Japan, intended to communicate the disaster-related information to non-Japanese individuals. The information is automatically relayed to the smartphones and the hospitals and emergency with English, Chinese, Korean, and Japanese, and Spanish, Portuguese, Vietnamese, Thai, Indonesian, Tagalog, Nepalese, Khmer, Burmese, Mongolian, altogether 14 language services are equipped in this app. You can, for Android, https :// you can download this app, Safety Tips, operated by the Tourism Agency of Japan. And information about the severance of the water supply in Miyagi Prefecture, the water supply has been cut in several municipalities. In Yamamoto, about 4,700 households don't have water. In the Zao area, about 100 households don't have water. And in Ishinomaki and Tome, the a rupture of the water supply pipes have been reported. And in Hirono, in Fukushima Prefecture, there has been some reports of the severance of water supply pipes. In Soma, in Fukushima Prefecture, Mr. Yamaki Hisanori is on the line. Mr. Yamaki, more than 2 hours have passed since the outbreak of the earthquake. Would you describe how you felt the jolt? I felt a strong rumbling of the ground, and I felt being jolted up from a bottom. You run a the drinking establishment. Would you describe your place? Many bottles of liquors have fallen off on the floor, and the floor is covered with the splinters of the broken glasses. So the aftershocks were reported in the several parts of the Tohoku area. Have you got injured? Yes, we took care of the aftershocks, and every time we felt the quakes, we go out of the shop while cleaning up the place. We see many old buildings nearby, and some houses appear to be rather dangerous because of the cracks running on the wall. There have been many damage reported in Fukushima. So do you have power in the area near the station? Yes, I see the power is on. My parents' place is rather remote, distant from here, and my parents said that my parents' place don't have the power. It's in Kuroki area. It's on the mountainous area within Soma city, where they reported some power outages, yes. And I understand that some households, they don't have water now. How about at your place? We don't have any problem now, and so we store water in the plastic tanks, just in case. Some time has passed since the earthquake, but it's still at night, so aren't you concerned? We are afraid of the aftershocks that can continue, and the strong shocks that might be repeated for the next several days. So we have to be careful while cleaning up the place. So it's been reported that the 6+ intensity earthquake might continue for the next week, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. So thank you very much indeed for talking about your situation. We have talked with Mr. Yamaki within the Soma city of Fukushima Prefecture. Chief Cabinet Secretary Kato held the press conference about 1 hour before, and 780,000 households within TEPCO area and 70,000 households within Tohoku Power Company area were without power, and the cabinet is yet to be informed fully of the damage to the water supply. But as you can see, there have been some reports of the rupture of water pipes. And in Kuba City, 18,000 households in Stuart City, 16,200 households are experiencing power outages, and power outages are probably being observed in other areas as well, so they're still checking the details. Reports on injuries. According to Fire Station Miyagi Prefecture, as of 1:30 a.m., 14 people reported injuries, but they are all non-life-threatening. In Ishinomaki City, a man in his 80s fell
in his home and is bleeding from his head. And in Higashimatsu City, a woman in her 80s fell from her bed and injured her shoulder. They are both being treated at hospital, but their injuries are not life-threatening. In Osaki City, Sambogi, a man in his 40s was hit from a shoebox that fell and was injured. In Misato-machi, Kitaura, a woman in her 20s was injured because of the falling shelves, and she's being treated at a hospital. A man in his 50s and a woman in her 70s were sent to hospital in another town, and they're still looking into the details. In Shiogama City, a senior woman, is being treated after hit by an object that fell from the shelf. And in Sennaki fire station, 7 people reported injuries after stepping on glasses, but they're not life-threatening. And Shiogama City, that experienced intensity 5, there was a fire breaking out from the home, but the fire was all settled and there's no fire spreading in the area. METI is sending Twitter information to the residents in the area and telling residents not to use the power generators. There could be carbon monoxide emitting from the device, and if they use at this time, there could be poisoning from the carbon monoxide, and that could cause nausea or dizziness, and in a worst case, it could lead to death. So the radiation from different nuclear power plants, according to the agency, as of 1:30 a.m., the Fukushima Daiichi and Fukushima Daini power plants, and also Onagawa nuclear power plant in Miyagi Prefecture, and Nihon Tokai Daini power plant, and also Higashidori nuclear power plant in Aomori, and Nihon. So nuclear power processing power plants, they are measuring the radiation level with the monitoring post, but they have not received reports of abnormalities. More information on outages. According to the homepage of Tohoku Power Company, in Fukushima and Miyagi prefectures, 67,000 households are experiencing power outages. In Miyagi and Niigata prefectures, power outages are almost over, and they are resumed the power supply. In Fukushima prefecture, 63,300 homes are experiencing power outages, and Tohoku Power Company is trying to resume the power supply. In Niigata and Ibaraki prefecture, most of the power outages are over, and the power supply is being resumed. We now go to the Prime Minister's office. This is Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide. He will be making a comment to the media. Asked about the quake, Prime Minister says, due to this earthquake, there was no concern of a tsunami. And the nuclear power plants, there are no abnormalities. So there are no reports of abnormalities, and everything is operating at all the nuclear power plants. Not operating, but everything is safe at this moment, and there are no major reports that people's life comes first, and we will lay top priority on this and take necessary measures. From 9 a.m. we will have a meeting of relevant ministers to have the latest briefing on the situation and take all necessary measures. If you have any message to the affected areas. Well, it is midnight. It's in the middle of the night. So what I would like to tell all the residents is that do not go outside and brace yourself for any aftershocks, and please ensure your safety. That was the Prime Minister making a comment to the media. So
Prime Minister made a comment to the media, and please be on the alert because there are aftershocks.